Hoyt, Underwood, Swan. Not only familiar names of a park, parkway, and boulevard in Wauwatosa, but also some of the city's early settlers whose final resting place is now in the National Register of Historic Places. In our Sunday morning spotlight, Michael Schlesinger shares what this status means to a cemetery with a rich history.
A collection and a reminder of the whole past history of the city of Wauwatosa.
President of the Board of Trustees of the Wauwatosa Cemetery, Mary Colette Walsh, has no problem looking back with the promise of what lies ahead for some land important to her and an entire community.
If you know anything about Wauwatosa and the schools and the streets, and you drive around the cemetery, you'll see all of them represented here.
After a rather intricate process, the cemetery, along with its chapel on 14 acres near the intersection of North Avenue and 76th Street, just received word it's on the National Register of Historic Places.
We really wanted to get that recognition. We think that the property, the chapel, and the cemetery really deserve it because they are part of the history of funerary services in the country. And of course, they're so much a part of our history in Wauwatosa.
It's just good for the community retaining their history in place.
Architectural historian and preservation consultant Tracy Schnell was the one who really made all this a reality. She nominated the site for this particular status. It's all rather involved.
This has been a 5-ish year process.
The Wisconsin Historical Society, through a governor-appointed review board, grants the state listing on the Wisconsin Register of Historic Places. After this approval, then the National Park Service in D.C. gives its nod.
You know, I think a lot of people get the idea that nominations are 5 pages, you fill out a form, and you're good. And ultimately, this nomination, I believe, was all total about 68 pages. Mind you, that's with some photos and with some illustrations and things like that.
As you might imagine, there are perks being part of a nationwide registry.
It makes us eligible for some tax credits should we be able to begin to renovate the chapel, for example. But it does open us up to grant money for certain foundations or individuals who may have an interest in historic preservation, which is what we would like to do with our chapel.
The non-denominational cemetery dates back to 1866. In 1914, the chapel itself was actually moved from a few blocks away. Funerals continued here until the early 1950s. Now, it's basically dormant. I'm told a $2 million campaign will soon be underway to revitalize the chapel itself, seeing there's no plumbing nor heat and barely any electricity. Then there are upgrades needed on the premises itself.
We do need to have a cash influx here so that we can continue to maintain it. The roads were originally built for horse and carriage. So we've been able to do some of the roads, but still have a few of them left to asphalt and improve.
What's so interesting about this particular location is it's considered a heartland cemetery.
It was never laid out in a grid. It was always somewhat haphazard, and it follows the rolling contours of the land. And the people who wish to be buried here can direct in whatever direction they would like their monuments to face.
And now with this new recognition, Wauwatosa Cemetery faces a more certain future.
People who have lived in Wauwatosa for a long time are very protective of their history and like to share it and preserve it.